Voices drift on winds untamed, words like spells that can't be named. Close your eyes and feel the sound. Journey where no bounds are found. Open doors inside your mind. Leave the ordinary far behind. Colors swirl and stars align. In the meta mysteries you'll find.
Welcome to Meta Mysteries, where you don't know what you don't know. My name's Jonathan.
I'm Sean.
And today we are kind of taking a little angle from the most previous show where we talked about, why keeps you waiting, how kind of opens you up to more information and kind of sets you free. And it's more liberating to ask how rather than why, because the why is always something that it's tied to stories. It's tied to mythologies. It's tied to, and we don't know where those stories came from or how long those stories were, just more of a hearsay before they were even written down, and who were they written by, and that's why the why is not so important. The how is important. And that's why, today we're actually going to be getting into a little bit of the Garden of Eden, the creation story. And it's going to be a little bit of a compare and contrast with the Bible as you know it, mainly the Old Testament or the Torah, however you like to call it, and comparing it to the Nag Hammadi.
Right. Yeah, I can get down with that, dude. And before we go any further, I'd like to say, if you haven't listened to the episode right before this one, definitely don't skip over that one. I felt like, I don't know, just in my opinion, I felt like it was a really good episode, and I felt really good about it, and even today I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't know, I just had like this extra sense of something to me, and like, I don't know, maybe it's just because that episode just made me feel good, and so I think that's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, that episode, that's one that we're very proud of for the information and the conversation that we were able to kind of have in that episode. It was really, really fun and mind-opening and mind-expanding and, dare I say, even third eye fucking opening, baby.
Oh, shit, dude. Be careful, man.
be careful. There's demons in there.
Yeah. That's what I've heard anyway.
No, it's funny. I actually I posted a video onto the Meta Mysteries TikTok, and it was one of the videos. I just took like a little clip from one of the DMT shows that we did, and I was explaining how DMT works and what they found with DMTX and stuff like that. And somebody commented, and they were like, "Be careful, there's demons in there." I'm like,
of course,
yep. There's demons in there too, right? Yep. I mean, demons. We just have a fucking infestation of demons, I guess.
Yep.
But look, we're not going to be. We don't sit in fear. Okay.
No.
I think fear is the ultimate. It's the ultimate governor to information. It's the ultimate governor to expanding your knowledge and encompassing that gnosis. You don't need a governor. I don't need my car to tap out at 107, bro. Okay? No. I needed to just not tap out at all. I needed to literally be full throttle all the time. And so the governor's off today, and we're going to be expounding upon the previous show, which, as Sean said, highly suggest you listen to that one before you listen to this one. And this is going to be on the Garden of Eden, and the snake.
Oh, shit. All right, dude. I'm ready, man. Take us there.
Yeah. Before I do, though, I do want to say we are finally back on the Meta Mysteries podcast. So if you've been following us along, we started out on the Meta Mysteries podcast. We ended up converting over to the Cult of Conspiracy podcast, where it's more of a network of podcasts over there, just to be able to get more ears on it and get more information out there. Because the cult, we built up a pretty sizable following over there over the years, and we kind of just wanted to share it over there. We're still going to be sharing it over there, but we're now also bringing it back to Meta Mysteries, because there were a lot of people saying they couldn't find the show. They thought that we weren't doing it anymore, which is totally understandable. And so now I just want to say we are everywhere. I mean, we're on Patreon, we're on YouTube, we're on the Cult of Conspiracy podcast, we're on the Meta Mysteries podcast, we have a TikTok, we have an Instagram, and we want you to go follow them all. And if you want to support us, the best way to be able to support us is patreon.com/metamysteries. If you do sign up over there, sign up for the Wonder Wednesday tier or higher, and you'll have access to join us every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central. What else are you doing on a Wednesday night, dude? I mean, Tuesdays and Wednesdays got to be the most boring days of the week. I mean,
not anymore, dude. Not anymore.
Not anymore, baby. So you want to get a little mystical, a little magical, a little spiritual, and you want to have your third eye blasted the fuck open, then come join us Wednesday night, 9 p.m., patreon.com/metamysteries. That being said, let's dive down this rabbit hole, sir.
Let's do it, man. Let's get weird with it.
So we're going to call this, I don't know if we're going to call it. I said that we were going to call the last episode something, and then I ended up changing the title to it. So I kind of feel like a dick. But it was too long. Like the title that I said that we were going to use, it was going to be way too long. And I wanted something more to the point and concise. And so we came up with something. But all right, here we go. Building off of the last episode, why keeps you waiting? The snake sets you free.
Oh. That's going to ruffle some feathers.
Oh,
I just know it.
Dude, this whole episode is going to ruffle some feathers. But look, we're not trying to say that this is absolutely correct or incorrect. It's another perspective. And so if you're looking at it from a spiritual perspective, you don't care where it came from. You don't care who said it. You don't care how old it is. If the information rings true to you, then it is the truth. And that's kind of something that we've delved upon a little bit here. The Bible is pretty notorious for... just commanding a lot of things kind of against your will. And if you don't do them, then, you're a sinner or you're going to hell or, any number of terrible tragedies because, it's a loving God,
Yeah,
and,
of course.
He
more
loves,
based on authority, if you will.
He loves you, but don't turn your back on him. All right. That's could be the worst mistake you ever made. But the good news is that Gnostics found out a little something else whenever we're talking about the creation story of Garden of Eden and the story of Adam and Eve. So last time we explored a dangerous truth in the past episode. That's why asking why can trap you in endless cycles of blame, of waiting, of praying for something outside of you to save you. But asking how, that's different. How is the key that opens the door to agency, to gnosis, to liberation. So tonight we ask the most dangerous question of all. What if the very first story we were told, the story of Eden, was never about sin, but about control? What if the fruit they told you was forbidden was never cursed? What if the God who told you to obey wasn't the highest? What if the snake wasn't your enemy, but your liberator? In this episode, we're pulling back the veil on one of the greatest inversions in spiritual history, a war between two visions of reality, one that tells you to obey and wait, and one that dares you to awaken and remember. This is not a debate between good and evil. This is a decoding of who wrote the script in the first place. The Bible says you fell. The Gnostics say you were pushed. The church says the snake lied. But what if the snake told the truth? Are you ready?
I'm ready, man. Let's do it.
Okay. So first off, I do want to say that this is going to be getting into it's kind of like a comparison between the Nag Hammadi text, which if anybody is unfamiliar with what the Nag Hammadi is basically like a lot of the Gnostic teachings. So I believe it has some of the apocryphal teachings in there as well, but it's mainly the Gnostics. So
wasn't it like destroyed or hidden or something like that for a very long time or...
Oh, dude, the Gnostics were hunted down. They were legit hunted down. Yeah. And that's kind of something that's wild. You don't really hear about that. And actually, there's a lot of different versions of the Bible and a lot of different interpretations of the Bible. Some heretical, some not, but just weren't really included. We've talked about or we've brought up before the Council of Nicaea, which happened in 300 and something AD, which was about your boy Emperor Constantine, and he was trying to really find a way to govern his people and how to group everybody into it. That's why there's a lot of different what's the word? There's a lot of different kind of inclusions in the Bible because they were trying to take people from different parts of the world and kind of get everybody to agree on the same thing. And so this is going like this information was actually banned from being in the Bible. And so when they say that they cut the Bible down to 66 books, there never was, not in my knowledge, or not to my knowledge, there never was like a book, like a collection, an amalgamation of all the books in the first place. They just got all the different books, and then the Bible ended up being comprised of 66 books. So it's not like there was, I don't know, 500 books, and they were like, oh, we only like these ones. It's that they took all of the different texts and all of the different copies of, writings that had been passed down through the years, and they narrowed it down at the Council of Nicaea, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And then they turned it into 66 books. However, I do want to say this. The Nag Hammadi texts were actually written 20 years before the Council of Nicaea.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
And so during that time, there was a battle of the Gnostics and the traditional, I guess, Christians, if you want to call them that. I call them the government Christians. Because that's kind of really what they were. And I actually made a little statement a couple weeks ago on the Cult of Conspiracy live show on Tuesday nights, and I was trying to talk to Jacob, and I was like, so wait, you're gonna sit there and tell me that Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, pretend he's Emperor Constantine, right? That guy is going to be able to tell you what is the correct spiritual way to connect to Jesus, to connect to God, and to be a good Christian, right? Think about that. And that's all you really got to do. You just got to take something and put it in today's lens in order to really get people to understand. Not saying that he understood that. He definitely disagreed with that sentiment, but that's kind of how I look at it. And so what I thought was interesting is that, as I was saying, there's many different books out there that were written about the Christians and that whole like story and everything. The only one that the Bible itself calls out and says, do not ever read these texts, do not ever read these books. The only ones that the Bible personally calls out is the Gnostic texts.
That's a little suspicious.
Sus.
No?
Sus. Yeah.
Now, why do you think that is? You think it's because it's too contradicting, or do you think that it's too much of the same?
Oh, it's absolutely contradicting.
Oh, it's contradicting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 100%. Because the Bible
I didn't know if
teaches,
there was a lot of like similarities, but then there was only like a couple super hardcore contradictions that kind of, fucks it all up. So thought I'd ask.
The Bible teaches you to worship outside of you, to obey, to follow law, to follow rule. And if you don't, then there's repercussions. Whereas the Gnostic texts talk about how you can find that God within, essentially. That's literally like Gnostic is Gnosis. Gnosis means to know. And if you know, you don't need to look for any kind of outside source. You know that it's already within you. And so, you can see why the Bible, or the people that constructed the Bible, would have a problem with that, because they don't need people of their government like actually thinking for themselves. They need you to follow this literature. They need you to stay in line. If you realized as an individual that you had God within you, literally, not figuratively, not subjectively, not parabolically or whatever, right? Like literally you have God in you. You are an essence, a spark of God, a spark of the eternal. And I don't even mean to say a spark as in you're tiny in comparison to the all that is God. I'm saying you're a drop in the ocean, and the ocean in a drop.
Yep.
Right. So it's kind of like you get like a sheet of glass that shatters on the floor, for example. Right. That sheet of glass, whenever it falls and shatters on the floor into 10,000 pieces, let's just say, if you shine something into one of those little fragments of the glass, like say it's up against a windowsill or whatever is the reflection, because glass is always going to mirror it. Every individual shard is going to mirror the whole as if it was a whole plain sheet of glass before it got shattered.
Right.
That's what I mean by you're the spark. Everybody has that spark. That's what, is it the Hindus that say namaste? Or is that Buddhist? Anyway, namaste. It's literally the divine within me bows to the divine within you, right?
Right.
Like I don't care about
recognizes the divine within you or something like that. I think it's both of those.
Something like that. But they're saying, look, I could give a shit less about the ego, the character that you've created, but I have that spark in me, the same one that's within you, and that is who I respect.
Right.
And so
nobody's better than you in any kind of way just because they believe something else. We're all equally part of that, whatever that is.
Well, and if everything is you, then it's like, how can you be better than you? I mean, yeah, we always try and be better than ourselves every day than we were before, but I'm not trying to go there. Basically, my point is that, I'm trying to lay some of the lay of the land here as far as why did these things kind of get skewed from each other in the beginning. So now we're going to get to the actual Nag Hammadi. So there's a couple of quotes that I wanted to bring here from the Nag Hammadi itself, and we're going to dive into a little bit. And then we're going to read the biblical account of Eden within Genesis chapters 2 and 3. And then after that, we're going to do a deep dive into the collection of the two. Okay. And at the end of the show, I hope that everybody can just take this information for what it is. Don't get butthurt. Don't get agitated. Don't get frustrated. Don't get, sad or pissed or anything. We're just the purveyors of information. That's it. And we're not even necessarily coming across this with oh, this one's absolutely true. This one's absolutely false. We're not looking at it like that. We're just taking the information and comparing it. And
I just want to hear the information for myself, dude. I mean, I'm not very well read within the Bible and a lot of these stories or understandings. And so just for myself personally, dude, I want to just hear all the information, just see what it does.
Yeah, see what it does. Swishing around your mouth a little bit, and spit out what don't taste good and swallow the rest.
That's right.
So we're going to first start at the hypostasis of the archons, which translates to the reality of the rulers. Okay. Now, this has been translated, of course, because I believe that the original Nag Hammadi was written in Coptic.
Okay.
So, that's nobody talks Coptic or speaks Coptic or writes Coptic or anything like that anymore.
What you will, because that's kind of the issue with a lot of these things. They're all translated at one point or another. So
right. So it goes, then the ruler said, I am God, and there is no other beside me. And a voice came forth from above the realm of absolute power, saying, you are mistaken, Samael. This is where it gets good. Okay. Already starting off good. So Samael means blind God. Okay. So voice. Okay. So there's God. And whenever this God said, I am God, obey me, whatever, there was another voice that came from above that God and said, you are mistaken, blind God. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So Samael, meaning blind God, is another name for Yaldabaoth. I don't know, which Yaldabaoth just means the Demiurge. Okay, so whenever it comes up on Yaldabaoth, I'm not going to say that. That's the original name for Demiurge in that language.
All right.
So Samael means blind God, which is another name for the Demiurge. The voice from above represents the true divine source, correcting the arrogant false creator. This is the moment where the illusion of divinity begins to crack. And then it goes, and this is in the hypostasis of the archons. It says, and the female spiritual principle came in the snake, the instructor. So the female spiritual principle came into the snake, which they call the instructor. And it taught them, saying, what did he say to you? Was it, from every tree in the garden shall you eat, yet from the tree of recognizing good and evil do not eat? And the woman of flesh said, talking about Eve, said, not only did he say do not eat, but even do not touch it, lest you want to die. And the snake, the instructor, said, it is not the case that you will die. For out of jealousy he said this to you, rather that your eyes will open and you will become like gods, recognizing evil and good.
Okay.
So legit, even in the Bible, basically, God is like he's telling Adam and Eve, look, there's this tree of knowledge, or the tree of good and evil, basically, right? And he's like, look, don't eat from that tree, and if you eat from that tree, you're gonna get sick and you're probably gonna die, right? He's like, you're gonna die if you eat from that tree. Well, Eve takes a bite. Right? She convinces, I think she convinces Adam to take a bite, and neither one of them die. But they're now considered sinners. Okay?
Right. Okay.
So this quote straight up declares the serpent as the teacher, not a deceiver, and suggests that the Demiurge lied out of jealousy, not love. This is the core Gnostic inversion of Genesis. So they just took it and they got the reciprocal. They were just like, wait a second, you've been saying all along that the snake was the bad guy, even though the snake was just like, yeah, take a bite out of it and you'll fucking see what I see. You'll be gods like all of us. Right. And the Demiurge, calling himself Big G God, right? Yep. Demiurge is like, don't eat from that. You're my creation. You can't be equal to me. It almost sounds very similar to the Anunnaki story, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Holy shit.
Right. So the Anunnaki, you have Enki and Enlil. Enlil was very against creating humans in that story, which was that the Enuma Elish? I think so. There's so many texts that we've talked about and read into. I can't remember them all. But so Enlil was entirely against creating humanity. So the goal is that they wanted to create humanity to be able to mine gold for their ecosystem or whatever the fuck. Right. And so Enlil was entirely against this because he warned Enki that, like, look, if you create them, they're going to be like gods and they're going to be like us, and they could, they could take over. And Enki was just like, you know what? I'm going to create them anyway because I ain't trying to mine all this damn gold myself. Yep. And so I'm going to create these little slaves and we'll keep them enslaved. We'll say, look, they can't live past 100 years old. Yep. They'll basically be asleep. They'll never be able to truly awake anyway.
They're not going to be very powerful. It'd be very easy for us to keep them under our thumb, kind of
exactly.
thing.
Yeah. So it's kind of like just creating literal children, like children to obey you, which is the Anunnaki with Enki and Enlil. And then also in this story, the Demiurge was essentially doing the same thing. Like, I don't need you to become like I don't need you to become like me. I'm trying to make you like obey me. And if you become like me, you're never going to obey me. Right.
Right. And both of these sets of characters are little G's, not big G.
Well, in this story, yeah. Okay. Yep. So here we go. This is on the origin of the world within the Nag Hammadi, so within the Gnostic understanding. So it goes, now the ruler saw the virgin who stood by Adam. He realized that the enlightened afterthought of life had appeared in her, yet the Demiurge was full of ignorance. So when the forethought of the all realized this, she sent some beings and they snatched life out of Eve. So this describes how Eve wasn't just a rib-born helper, but a carrier of divine light, and the Demiurge tried to steal it. Eve becomes a vessel of Sophia's essence, not a secondary creation. So this is fascinating because what it's saying, so the original biblical story, which, to be honest, we probably should have went over that first for anybody that doesn't, isn't too familiar with that story, but essentially the creation...
I'm right there with them, so...
Essentially, the creation story is about how God made Adam from clay, right? And, construct him that way, but basically saw that, like, I think the story goes that, like, Adam was lonely, and so he wanted to give him somebody to not be lonely anymore. Okay. And so that's how Eve was created. Eve was created by God taking one of Adam's ribs and constructing another human from Adam's ribs, right?
Okay.
So then what happens is that they both see the snake. And the snake is like, look, eat this apple. It's gonna give you all the knowledge of good and evil. And God's like, no, don't do that because it'll kill you. And that whole story. And so that's kind of what this is saying is that Eve wasn't just like some stupid woman who decided to go against God. What this is saying is that Eve was essentially Sophia. Sophia meaning
wisdom, right?
Wisdom. Yes, that's what it was. I was thinking knowledge, but wisdom. So it's the essence of wisdom was encompassed within Eve. So she had already been like that way. She goes, I don't even really necessarily need this whole knowledge of good and evil, but I'm going to break off a little piece of this and I'm going to give it to homeboy Adam because he's just so fucking blinded by this Demiurge thinking that he's the creator, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, they take a bite. And so essentially what this is saying is that the Demiurge tried to steal the divine light from Eve. Okay. And also that Sophia's essence was the vessel of Eve, and she was not a secondary creation. So it's not like there was a Sophia over here and then there's a little bit of Sophia inside of Eve. It's that the entire essence of wisdom of Sophia was in Eve at that point.
Okay. You could say was Eve.
Exactly.
At that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
According to the story. I'm not saying absolutely. I'm just saying according to the story.
Just information, that's all we're doing.
Exactly. So the next part of the story goes, the tree of their life they put in the middle of paradise. I shall teach you what the mystery of their life is, the plan they made together, the nature of their spirit. The root of the tree is bitter. Its branches are death. Its shadow is hate. Its leaves are deception. The blossom of the tree is an ointment of evil, and its fruit is death. Their desire is for it. It is a counterfeit of the tree of life. This is saying, this quote challenges the idea that the tree of knowledge was evil. It suggests that the Archons created a counterfeit tree, a trap, meaning the real tree of life is something internal and secret, and not an Eden at all.
Oh. Okay.
So there was two trees in the beginning. There was the tree of life, and then there was the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right?
Yep. Okay.
And so that's what this is saying. God was like, yo, you can eat from the tree of life all day, but really in actuality, the tree of life is inside. You don't need to eat from it or any of that kind of shit. It's that wisdom is always in you.
Yep.
So here we go on to the next part. The Apocryphon of John, or the secret teaching of John. And so it goes, and he said, come, let us cast him into a deep sleep. And he slept. Now the deep sleep that they cast upon him, and he slept, is ignorance. So he didn't go to sleep. He had ignorance casted upon him. They opened his side like a living woman, and they built up his side with some flesh in place of her, and Adam became psychic, and the Archon fashioned the woman with the side, which he had taken from the psychic Adam. Interesting. So it says here, Adam's sleep is not rest, it's ignorance. The creation of Eve by the Archons becomes a trap, the beginning of division and duality. This is the opposite of the Genesis idea of unity through Eve. That's interesting. So we'll keep on going on. I'm trying to burn through it because we have so much that we need to talk about today.
That's cool, dude. I'm just hanging on, man.
All right. Next part goes, they took counsel with one another and said, come, let us cause a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. And he slept. And they took one of his sides and built up flesh in its place. And Adam came to be only with soul. And the woman of the spirit came to him and spoke with him, saying, arise, Adam. And when he saw her, he said, it is you who have given me life. You will be called mother of the living. It says Eve here is not subordinate. She's the spiritual awakener, the mother of the living, a manifestation of divine Sophia who literally wakes up Adam from ignorance. In Gnostic lore, Eve is the savior, not the seductress.
Makes sense.
That's cool. Okay, so she was basically waking him up because the Demiurge put him in a deep sleep of ignorance, right? Like this fucking guy is just over here following all these rules from the Demiurge, and Eve's just like, you gotta wake the fuck up, man. This
world is not what you think it is.
Exactly. It's like, take this fucking red pill, aka the apple, right? Oh, interesting about how it's red too, right? Okay, so some other things going on here. So in many Nag Hammadi texts, Eve carries the light of Sophia, and the serpent becomes her ally, guiding her to reclaim her inner knowing. The Demiurge tries to keep Adam and Eve from this inner spark, not because they're sinful, but because they're too powerful if awakened. The fall, in quotes, is not a punishment. It's the first crack in the illusion.
The beginning to the awakening.
Yes, I love this shit. All right. So now we get over to the biblical part. And remember, I'm just kind of glazing over some of these kind of things because we're going to get way deeper later. I'm just kind of trying to set a little context here.
Let's go.
So now we get to the biblical account of Eden in Genesis chapters 2 and 3. Genesis chapter 2, verses 7 through 9 says, it talks about the creation of man and the garden. So this is straight out of the Bible. It says, Then the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And man became a living soul. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden. And there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground the Lord God made to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life also the tree of life is also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil is there as well. Now we get to the next part, the one forbidden rule. It says, And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, talking to Adam, saying, You may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it you shall surely die. Damn.
Oh, the same day, huh?
Guess he didn't die. So next we have the serpent's temptation in the next chapter. It goes, Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, Did God actually say you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? This is the snake talking to Eve now. Mm-hmm. And Eve said to the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, You shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden. But the serpent said to Eve, You will surely not die. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil.
And not the Demiurge God, the God that was whispering in the ear, the big God.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, exactly. And so it continues. This is the fall. All right. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took one of its fruit and ate it. And she also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. They sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. So basically, they eat of this tree, right? They both take a little bite of this apple, and now they have all the information, all the knowledge of good and evil, right? Mm-hmm. And so then they were like, wait a second, we just ate a little bite of literally the tree of knowledge, and we're like, wait a sec, are we fucking naked?
We're naked right now.
Yeah. They're like, let's throw some loincloths on here.
Yeah.
Then you have the following thing happens, which is God's confrontation. It says, And they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God. But the Lord God called to the man, Have you eaten of the tree which I commanded you not to eat? Adam blamed Eve, and Eve blames the serpent. Adam's like, yo, it was her idea. It wasn't even me. I'm just over here trying to get some ass. So, happy wife, happy life kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then Eve's like, don't fucking put it on me. It was a snake talking to me,
Yeah, there was a snake talking to you.
Okay. Didn't realize I put some magic mushrooms out in this field too.
Right.
So now we get to the curses. All right, which is in Genesis chapter 3, verses 14 through 19. So God's curses are the serpent. So the serpent, it says, On your belly you shall go. I will put enmity between you and the woman. So, okay, interesting. Basically curse the serpent. Okay, saying you're never going to be able to stand up again. You're going to be a fucking bottom dweller, and you're going to slide and slip on your belly for the rest of eternity.
All right.
For the woman, Eve, in pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. So basically, God's like, look, because you decided to fuck all the way up, here's a little treat. And this is, and you're never going to forget it. And as a matter of fact, every single woman ever created from here on out will never forget the fucking mistake that you made. And here's what you're going to do. You can give, you can create kids and all that shit, but it's going to be so goddamn painful.
It's going to hurt, dude.
Like, and every time a woman gives birth, they're going to curse you. Goddamn Eve, she just had to eat from that tree of good and evil. If she didn't do that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very Demiurge like.
Really set the stage.
Yeah. Then you have the man, or Adam. It says, Cursed is the ground because of you. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground. Oh. Whatever that means. Okay. So nextly, the last part of the Bible we're going to talk about here is the banishment from Eden. This was in Genesis chapter 3, verses 22 through 24. It says, Then the Lord God said, Behold, the man has become like one of us in knowing good and evil. Now, lest he reach out his hand and take also the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore, the Lord God sent him out of the Garden of Eden. He drove out the man, and at the east of the garden he placed the cherubim and a flaming sword to guard the way of the tree of life. So, in that part, whenever God was like, holy shit, he's going to be like me. I can't be having this. He said, get the fuck out of my garden. Get out. And as a matter of fact, you're never going to be able to come back in here because I'm going to have a cherubim, which is like an angel, and a flaming sword. So good luck. Like I got bouncers outside the club and they're way bigger than you. They're way more badass than you.
Bouncers and a sniper. All right.
Yeah, basically. And so it seems a little demiurgish, right?
It does. It really does.
Think about it. Literally, it says, this is in the Bible, where God said, Behold, the man has become like one of us in knowing good and evil. One of us? I thought you were just one. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and I don't think an all-knowing God would have reacted that way, because an all-knowing God knows that they were going to do that kind of thing, Like how could he be surprised that they went and did something that he should have already knew they were going to go and do?
It's literally your creation.
Yeah, you're all-knowing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if it's your creation, then you would have to know that that's probably some kind of trait that, was held within you first. Right?
Yep.
Like, I don't know. Whenever, like, for example, I got a 2-year-old son, right? And my 2-year-old son, a month or two ago, found out the hard way that the stove is hot. Right?
Yep.
Now, I didn't tell him to go and put his hand on the stove. But also, I wasn't mad that he did it because now he's never going to make that mistake again. Right? Yep. And so it's like, I don't know. It's like, that like you tend to have a little bit more love for your creation. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh my God, this dumbass kid. It's like, no, that's my baby. I'm happy that he learned a lesson. You know, you wouldn't say, you touched the stove, now get the fuck out of my house to a 2-year-old. Go on, get. Get, boy. No. Why would you say that?
Right.
So it's a little special anyway. So the summary of key themes in the Bible. So here we go. God would be, in the description of God, would be the creator and the sovereign ruler. He gives law and punishment. The serpent would be the tempter, subtle, deceptive, later equated with Satan. Eve is the first one to sin, blamed for initiating disobedience. The knowledge represents forbidden unless granted by God, and it's linked to death and shame. Think about that. Knowledge is forbidden unless granted by God, and it's linked. So, you can't have all this knowledge because I'm going to link it to death and shame.
Yeah. And when something went wrong, it was the woman's fault. Adam just was like, hey, I was just sitting here. You know what I mean? So
You know what that reminds
weird.
me of is a couple years ago, whenever there was all of the, y'all know that I got the conspiracy show and everything, but there was a couple of years ago that like CNN and all the different like news stations, they were just like, what did they say? Doing your own research is dangerous. Don't do your own research. Listen to
Sounds
us.
familiar now.
Sounds very familiar now, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
So the fall would be described as seen as the origin of sin, suffering, and death. So because Eve decided to take that apple because she wanted to have the knowledge of good and evil inside of her, God was like, all right, now you're a sinner, and now you're going to suffer, and you're going to experience death. Because one thing in the Garden of Eden, nothing dies in the Garden of Eden.
Right.
Like you live eternally forever
perfect.
in the Garden of
Perfect
Eden.
there.
It's
Right.
literally fucking perfection. Okay. But you decided to go against God's will, and God was like, well, you fucked up. Now you're never getting it
Done
back.
fucked up. You done fucked up.
The tree of life, its description is it's cut off after sin to prevent eternal life in a fallen state. So God sees it as like, look, I'm actually doing you a solid. Like, I'm going to take away the tree of life. And you know what? Like, you're going to be a sinner. But the good news is that you're only going to be a sinner for like 100 years, maybe 80 years, something like that, because you don't have to live eternally.
Right. 80 to 100 years of suffering, But then there's hell.
And then
That's
there's
a whole
hell.
other thing.
I mean,
Right. Yeah.
Now we can compare this to the Gnostic view, where God would be the Demiurge. The serpent would be the liberator and the bringer of Gnosis. Eve would be the carrier of divine wisdom, or Sophia. Knowledge would be awakening and divine right. It's a divine, think about that. What makes more sense? That knowledge would be forbidden unless granted by God, or knowledge standing for awakening and your divine right?
A divine right, dude. And there's so many things that we've experienced, where it's not even a thing that we had to look up. It was just something that just came to us. It was like already there, and we just only remembered it. And I think that's what this is.
That's it, dude. Then you got the fall. We talked about what it meant in the Bible, which is punishment for sin. But the fall in Gnosticism would be liberation from ignorance.
Yeah, dude.
Think about that. Like you're born ignorant in a way, at least according to this Bible, because you're born out of God's
Told
creation.
not to look into stuff, right?
You're not allowed to look into anything. Now the fall that God granted you essentially would be your liberation from being ignorant.
Right.
So
I
now
feel
it's like the fall is a good thing, the knowledge is a good thing, the serpent is a good thing, and God just so happens to be the bad guy.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting to me that knowledge would be a bad thing. I feel like knowledge would give you the understanding of, like you said, good and evil. Like, wouldn't you want to be able to discern between the two?
Exactly. Well, and that's when, you'll hear people say, well, not all knowledge is good knowledge. Not all information is good information. It's like, yeah, but I have a filter that I put it through. And it's not like, it's good to run in front of fire trucks. Okay, that's a good bit of knowledge. Now I'm going to apply it to my life. It's like, no, I still have this filter that says probably not a good idea, so I'm not going to do it. Like, it's okay to just allow people to put it through their own filter. I don't see what's wrong with that.
But the thing that I've looked at, or at least I think I'm understanding, is that back in those days, dude, I imagine people's moral compass wasn't as, on point. And so, like, today we have a much better understanding, like what not to do, what's something good that you can do, and what's something that's obviously something you should never do. Like, that just feels, at least to me, it feels pretty natural. Like, sure, I still make mistakes. Of course I've done things I shouldn't have done. And of course I know for a fact I've done things in the past that I knew better, but did it anyways, But nowadays, I don't know, maybe it's just because of my age or what it is, but I feel like my moral compass is pretty good. And
for sure,
better,
and that comes with time and everything. But actually, what a lot of the like a lot of gurus and yogis and like enlightened ones, they'll say that actually that information that was once there, that enlightenment that was once there is actually dwindling away, that people used to be a lot more enlightened. They used to know a lot of this, like you didn't have to fucking lie to anybody. They just knew kind of thing. They were a lot more connected to God and more connected to nature and more connected to reality. You could actually suggest that in today's day and age, we're like, the majority of people are succumbing to technology and to government and to religion. And so you could say, honestly, that the fall is like, it's been falling compared to way back then. Right. So even then, like if they had all that knowledge, I mean, think about it. You're a lot more connected. Maybe you're living outside. Maybe you don't have AC. You don't have a phone to fuck around on. You ain't got no porn to be able to look up on your phone or anything like that. And so maybe they were connected to the all a lot more than we are. I would have to imagine that.
Yeah, I mean that very well could be. I guess I was just thinking about it like logically in the sense of, when something is happening that you don't want to happen, you make a rule for it. Don't do this thing, because it was happening. And so, but nowadays I feel like, and what do I know? I'm only looking through my perspective, but I just feel like most people know not to kill other people. You know what I mean? But back then it had to be like a commandment, like, thou shalt not kill, because it must have been just rampant, I don't know.
mean, they still had like tradition, because people were living in small communities and everything. And so you would have an elder of the community and shit like that would basically be like your spiritual father in a sense. Or maybe there would be some kind of lay of the land. And so I don't know. I think that nowadays it's easier to think that, we've evolved to what we are. It is easy to think about that because we do have technology, we have AC, we drive in cars and all that shit. We think we're so much smarter. But actually
pretty civilized for the most part, I would think.
Right, but actually forget about civilized so much. They were more connected to the truth back then. Because, they were just a lot more, it was smaller communities and everything, so I don't know. And here's the thing too. We like to think that, 5,000 years ago, there were cavemen. That's not true at all. I mean, maybe there were a couple of fucking hobos living in a cave, you know what I'm saying? But I don't think that, I wouldn't even say, dude, they found a relic. I think an old chalice, or something, or an old tool or something like that in Carolina, I believe, in North Carolina. I could be North Carolina, South Carolina, one of those. That relic dates humanity all the way back. I'm talking about a tool that you would use. So not like a caveman idiot. I'm talking about like a
something
technology
that was crafted and
like a technology to them in that age.
Yeah.
Dating back 50,000 years, bro.
Whoa.
50,000 years humans were using tools. Very awesomely handcrafted. And so, all right, what do we do with that now?
Right. Yeah, because I think the going understanding, maybe at least religiously, is like 6,000 years, right? And correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah.
Though. Yeah. So 50,000 years, that's significant.
Right. So anyway, let's continue. And also the last thing in the Gnostic view, the tree of life. In the Bible, the tree of life is guarded by God. And the Gnostic text, in the Gnostic text, the tree of life is a symbol of hidden eternal truth. So don't eat of that tree of life or else you're going to be fucked.
Okay. All right.
All right, so now we can. We had the whole outline first. I wanted to get that out the way so we can, kind of lay a little context here. And now we're going to get to the actual meat and potatoes.
All right. Well, thank you for doing that, anyways, because I felt like I needed that.
Yeah, I probably need a little brush up on it too. I couldn't even remember if Adam took a bite or if Eve took a bite. Turns out they both did. So
the little details. Right.
We don't know. We don't know. It's kind of like we're not here. We always say this. We're not teachers at all. Like we're discovering a lot of this information along with y'all. So we kind of just want to say that. But anyway, let's continue on. So the story of Eden is perhaps the most influential myth in Western consciousness. It begins in a garden, not just of trees and rivers, but of innocence, amnesia, and potential. In the book of Genesis, God creates man and woman and places them in Eden, warning them not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. A serpent, cunning and enigmatic, tempts Eve with a radical idea that eating the fruit will not bring death, but will open their eyes and make them, in quotes, like the gods. She eats, Adam eats, and everything changes. Humanity is exiled from paradise, clothed in shame, and sent into the wilderness of time. This story has been interpreted for millennia as a tale of sin and punishment, but what if it was something else entirely? Enter the Gnostic heresy. It's heretical to talk about these things. The Gnostic heresy, the forbidden lens. The Gnostics, mystics, and initiates of the early Christian era read Genesis and saw a mirror world, a false god pretending to be the creator, archons masquerading as angels, and a serpent who wasn't the devil but the bringer of divine Gnosis. Where the church saw rebellion, they saw liberation. The tree wasn't a trap, it was a test. The Gnostics asked a question that flips the whole biblical narrative on its head. What if eating the fruit was the first step towards spiritual awakening, and the God who forbade it was not the true God at all? This episode will walk that razor's edge between orthodoxy and illumination, and challenge you to look again at the story we've all been told with eyes wide open.
Oh, that third eye, baby.
Yeah, baby girl. That's the only eye that matters.
Right, dude.
So we have the Christian literalist view of the fall of man. We're going to go over it a little bit more now.
Okay.
So, in the traditional Christian reading, the Garden of Eden represents not only humanity's origin, but also its original failure. According to this interpretation, God created humans in perfection and placed them in paradise with a single prohibition: do not eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This tree, in Christian theology, wasn't evil. It was simply off limits, a divine boundary meant to test obedience. The serpent, identified in later Christian texts as Satan, that was in Revelation chapter 12, verse 9, where the snake is Satan. Anyway, the serpent tricks Eve into eating the fruit by promising her enlightenment. Adam follows. This act of disobedience, known as the fall, introduces sin, death, and separation from God into the human experience. It is, in this view, the reason humanity needs a savior, the reason for the eventual coming of Christ.
Oh, all right, homeboy.
So from this lens, the story is not about tyranny, but protection. God's command not to eat the fruit is seen as a paternal act of care, shielding humans from knowledge that they weren't ready for, knowledge that brings duality, shame, and mortality. In Romans chapter 5, verse 12, Paul, the Apostle Paul, shout out, Paul writes, just as sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, in this way death came to all people. The woman is often viewed as the one deceived, making Eve's choice the hinge point of the entire human condition. The Christian view sees Christ as the new Adam, sent to reverse the effects of the first one's disobedience. In this narrative, obedience leads to salvation, while rebellion, even in the pursuit of knowledge, leads to death. It's a worldview built on faith, trust, and divine hierarchy. Man must not seek the divine on his own terms, but must wait for God to bridge the gap. Okay.
Oh, all right. All right.
Getting hot up in here, dude. So now we get to the Gnostic inversion, Serpent as the liberator. So this is the Gnostics version of it. To the Gnostics, the garden wasn't a paradise. It was a prison, and the so-called God who ruled it was not the benevolent creator, but a false god that they called the Demiurge. This being, blind and arrogant, proclaimed in the hypostasis of the archons, in quotes, "I am God and there is no other beside me." But a voice from the higher realms responded, saying that you are mistaken, as we talked about earlier.
Yep.
The Gnostics believe that the true source, the monad, is pure light, hidden beyond all form and concept. What we call creation was a fracture, an accident, a flawed emanation from the divine feminine force known as Sophia, who birthed the Demiurge without her counterpart. He, unaware of the higher realms, talking about the Demiurge, he was unaware of the higher realms, created the material world, and trapped divine sparks, our souls, in physical bodies. That's the Gnostic way of looking at it.
Okay. Thus creating the illusion of the physical world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
In this inverted mythos, the serpent is no devil, it's the liberator, the first revolutionary. In the book called On the Origin of the World, the serpent is described as the one who taught Adam and Eve the truth, who defied the archonic ruler by offering them the fruit of Gnosis, awareness, differentiation, and the spark of selfhood. The Gnostics argued that humanity wasn't cast out of Eden because we disobeyed. We were exiled because we awoke. The fruit gave us the ability to discern good from evil, a divine attribute. The Demiurge feared that awakening. He barred us from the tree of life, not out of justice, but out of jealousy, because if we united knowledge and eternal life, we would become like gods. The serpent, then, is the symbol of Kundalini, the ascending force, and the gnosis of the true Eden. The Gnostic path isn't about sin and repentance. It's about remembering who we really are.
Damn. What do you think about that? A jealous God?
Oh, 100%. I mean, just all you have to do is just like look at all of the times. I mean, think about it. If you were able to be eternal, meaning live forever, and you had all of the knowledge that you would ever need, you would be just like God, right?
Right.
I mean,
so.
in a sense.
But I mean a jealous God. That's what I'm saying.
So the jealous God is like, look, I don't need you being like me. There's plenty of other dickheads out there like me, right? Like I don't know.
I don't think there
that
would be, you know.
Well, I mean, it depends on, how you interpret it.
Okay.
Because in the Bible, it talks about Moloch as like God is talking about Moloch. Don't worship these other gods like Moloch and so. And it's like, wait a second, I thought you were the only one. But and then you get into, Elohim. Is it singular? Is it plural? Is it a weave or an I kind of situation?
Right.
Right. And so the idea of the false God being a jealous God is that I created you. I want you.
Oh, the false God. Okay. All right. No, I was talking about Big G God.
Oh, Big G God don't care about none of this shit.
He ain't getting jealous, dude.
No, not at all. Not at all. So
that's what I was thinking. Okay, my fault. I should have clarified.
Yeah, false God, the Demiurge, he wants you all to his own.
Right. He's arrogant and ignorant.
He doesn't want you to awaken because when you awaken, you won't need him anymore.
That's right. Okay. I'm with you.
Okay, cool. So now here we go. So now we're going to compare the characters of Yahweh versus the Demiurge.
Okay.
Here we go. In traditional Christianity, Yahweh is the all-powerful, all-loving creator of the universe. The same God who gave the law to Moses, judged the nations, and ultimately sent Jesus to redeem mankind. He is referred to in the Old Testament as a jealous God, a consuming fire, and one who forms the light and creates darkness. While many Christians interpret these characteristics as signs of divine sovereignty and righteous wrath, the Gnostics saw them differently. They believed these qualities revealed Yahweh's true nature as a counterfeit God, a being full of rage, pride, and desire for control. To the Gnostic initiate, the God of the Old Testament was not the source of light, but a cosmic tyrant, a jailer of souls who kept humanity bound in ignorance.
Yeah, that tracks, because the whole jealous God thing that just never really made sense to me, dude. All knowing, all powerful. It's not gonna be jealous of anything.
First of all, if you're all knowing, you would know that jealousy is a pretty fucking bad trait.
It's a low vibration, dude.
Low, exactly. Literally, think about it. If God had a thought and then took those thoughts and then created from from those thoughts into words, that's how God created, right? What that means is that there is a vibration. There's an essence behind each syllable that you sound out. Like in cymatics. You ever seen cymatics? You know, you got a plate of sand, put it on a board, then you vibrate some kind of music onto it, and it forms like these crazy, you know, geometric shapes.
Yep.
God would know that because God created everything.
Yep.
Yet, for some reason, he forgets that jealousy is a negative vibration, and therefore, if you have a negative vibration, things ain't really going to work out for you.
Right. Yeah.
So, if you're all knowing, you would know that.
Right. You would know that, right? No intrusive thoughts, right?
Exactly. So now we move on. So the archons in Gnostic cosmology are the subordinate rulers under the Demiurge. So the archons are the subordinate rulers under the Demiurge, which are interdimensional agents of confusion, manipulation, and deception. They operate within the 7 planetary spheres, governing fate, time, and material limitation. Their role is to keep the divine spark in man asleep, buried beneath flesh and dogma. This contrasts sharply with the Christian view of angels and divine order. Gnostics describe the archons as fake gods who impersonate light, just as the Demiurge falsely claimed sole divinity. Genesis chapter 3, verse 22 becomes crucial in this context. Behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Now, lest he reach out his hand and also take from the tree of life and eat and live forever, ... a line that the Gnostics saw as proof that the God feared humanity, or human divinity, rather. So God was fearing human divinity. Think about that. You're all knowing and all powerful. And for some reason, you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have put this fucking tree here, dude.
It's making me nervous.
It's like, you know, what if they eat from it, you know, and then I got a fucking whole problem on my hands, and then I got to seem like the asshole, and, you know, people are going to look at me like I'm evil and shit like that.
Now he's got to go meditate on it, you know, and figure out what he's going to do. Yeah.
But instead of thinking that and doing that, he just told them, look, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Don't do that. And if you do that, there's going to be some repercussions up in here.
Just stop it. Yeah.
All knowing came up with that. Okay.
Yep.
So where were we? Okay. So all right. So talking about that line, a line that Gnostics saw as proof that the God feared human divinity. In their eyes, the real sin was the archon's refusal to let humanity evolve, and the serpent was the one who offered the first jailbreak. I like it. So this is where it's going to start to get even more wild. If you didn't already think that it was wild, this is Jesus as the serpent.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
I'm listening.
Christ as the Gnostic Redeemer. So it says, explore Jesus as the Redeemer in both systems. All right, we're going to compare it in Gnosticism and in Christianity. So in mainstream Christianity, Jesus is the divine Son of God, sent to atone for mankind's sin. A new Adam. Oh, yeah, that's right, because he was sent here to be the new Adam, essentially. So a new Adam who undoes the failure in Eden. His crucifixion is seen as a sacrifice to redeem the fall caused by eating from the tree of knowledge. But in Gnostic thought, Jesus doesn't come to fix sin. He comes to awaken the divine spark. In the secret text of, in the secret book of John, rather, Christ is an emissary from the pleroma, the realm of true divine fullness, sent to teach secret knowledge to those ready to receive it. So
those with ears to hear, man.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's why, Jesus, dude, this is actually pretty crazy. But so Jesus is talking to all of his followers and shit like that, right? So he has basically he has his main 12 disciples, but before that he had a lot more. The 12 disciples are just the ones that are left over after the story I'm about to tell you. So
Okay.
he had a bunch of followers. Let's just say he had 100 followers, for example, right?
Okay.
And then, then Jesus creates bread and drink or something like that for the masses, essentially, right? You know, he takes a tiny little loaf of bread and he makes enough for everybody, kind of thing. So they saw that as a miracle. So then they saw that Jesus was like on the other side. He got to a point that was too far away that didn't even really make sense. They thought, how the fuck did you get that far away over there? We just saw that you were right here. And so they saw that as kind of like, magic in a sense. So they eventually end up going over there to meet him and everything and all of his followers. They get over there and Jesus is like, yo, you thought me turning that into those like massive loaves of bread for everybody to eat? You thought that was crazy? You thought that shit was real? All right, let me give you a little something here. And this is whenever he says, if you eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, you'll live eternally, or something along those lines, right? So a lot of them, they were like, what the fuck? This guy wants us to eat his flesh and drink his blood? The fuck is this guy talking about? Like,
it's getting weird all of a
step
sudden.
too far, bud. All right.
He gave us food. It was cool. And then it just got weird.
Then it got weird. Yeah. And so a lot of them fell off, and lo and behold, the only people that were left were the 12 disciples, right?
Oh, okay.
And so that's why he only had 12 left over, because, they were like, he was like, yo, you got to eat my shit. Wasn't literally saying it, but that's the thing. So he wasn't literally saying it. So whenever he says that whenever the this book says he was sent to teach secret knowledge to those ready to receive it, and he goes, you got to eat my flesh and drink my blood. Well, a lot of those people were not ready to receive that information. That was like a secret teaching. That was like an initiate kind of conversation. And so a lot of them took it literally, and they were like, wait a fucking second, I'm not doing that. But Jesus was just like, all right, you ain't fucking ready to receive this then. Because I'm not saying literally anything.
You're missing the point.
You're missing the entire point. And so that's what he's saying, sent to teach secret knowledge to those ready to receive. So he doesn't demand worship, but remembrance. His mission isn't about obedience, but about disruption. Like the serpent before him, he breaks the rules of the false god systems to deliver a key. He says in the Gospel of Thomas, this is Jesus' words in the Gospel of Thomas, if those who lead you say to you, see, the kingdom is in the sky, then the birds will precede you. But the kingdom is within you and is outside of you. So in prior teachings, people would think, oh, the kingdom is in the heavens or in the sky.
Obviously, God is obviously outside of us, what they're thinking.
Back in the day, people would point up to the sky and call it the heavens. That's where that really comes from. So it's kind of like, even nowadays, like you'll hear it in baseball, like, man, he really knocked that one straight to the heavens, right? Like just fucking blasting it. But in this case, Jesus is like, see, the kingdom isn't in the sky. If it is in the sky, then the birds are on top of you. They're closer to heaven than you are. So then they must have way more knowledge than you because they're way up there, right?
Right.
And he's going like, yo, the kingdom is actually within you and it's all around you. Okay, just so you know that. So this isn't a different Jesus. It's a deeper decoding of the same Christ when we're comparing the Nag Hammadi and the Bible. So his crucifixion on the tree, let's just say in quotes, mirrors Eden's tree, not as punishment, but as liberation through Gnosis. Wow, I never thought about that.
Gnosis. The tree being or the cross being like the tree?
I mean, it's made of wood, So yeah, basically that's what they're saying is that he was nailed to essentially a symbol of the tree, which is the wooden cross, right? And he wasn't up there as a punishment, but as a liberation through Gnosis. He's like, yo, I believe this shit wholeheartedly. I'm fucking ready to go. And I'm going to try and prove it in every possible way that I can. So much so, I'm going to die on this cross, and I'm going to show you that, like we exist beyond this. Like, this is a temporary fucking video game. That's all this is,
simulation, right?
So the Gnostics saw this, or saw that the cross, the Gnostics saw the cross not just as a symbol of suffering, but as a cosmic axis, reconnecting Earth to the divine. In the Gospel of Philip, it says, "The world came into being through a mistake, but those who awaken to the truth are no longer bound to it." Wow. So Jesus in this framework is more like a spiritual hacker than a priest, infiltrating the prison, waking up the inmates, and giving them a map out. He speaks in riddles, not to confuse, but to filter the ready from the blind.
Oh, shit. That's interesting.
Yeah, buddy.
Time to pierce the veil, dude.
Time to pierce the veil. So the Christians see Christ as a bridge between man and God. The Gnostics see Christ as the mirror, revealing the God within man.
Mm-hmm. I dig it. I'm with that.
I mess with that
I like it.
hard. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So nextly we have actually this is going to be one of the final points here. So now we have control versus gnosis. So the Bible versus the Gnostic.
Okay.
Obedience or awakening. The ultimate divide between the Christian literalist and the Gnostic mystic is not just about theology, it's about power, perception, and purpose. In the Christian worldview, the story of Eden is a story of obedience lost, a moral fall that requires redemption, not revelation. The solution is faith, submission, and trusting the plan of an external God who intervenes when he sees fit. The world is seen as a fallen but sacred creation, and our task is to obey, believe, and await the return of Christ. Sin is real, Satan is real, and salvation is gifted, not discovered. It's a narrative that emphasizes dependency, often placing man as a child before an all-powerful father. Knowledge in this system is only safe when filtered through divine authority. But the Gnostics flip that model inside out. To the initiate, the world is not a sacred creation. It's a trap, a veil of illusions spun by the archons who feed on fear and ignorance. The goal is not salvation, but awakening. Not worship, but realization. Gnosis isn't belief, it's direct experiential knowledge of your divine origin. You don't wait for a second coming, you reclaim your inheritance now. You become as Christ was, a mirror of the pleroma, walking in the world, yet not of it. So walking in the world, yet not of it.
Right.
The serpent, the fruit, the tree, they were never curses. They were the first lessons in divine rebellion. And as the Gospel of Thomas whispers, when you know yourself, then you will be known, and you will realize that you are the sons of the living Father. The choice is not just theological, it's existential. Will you submit to the God of this world, or will you remember that you are and always has been divine?
That's it, dude. You see, just that right there, man, that just makes me feel closer to whatever that is. You know, the essence of that divine that we might not ever fully understand, but just that understanding makes me feel closer to that. You know, rather than something outside of that and just kind of being hopeful and just kind of going for the ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that this is really what this entire show is all about. It's not about believing or having faith in, it's about knowing. It's about trying to understand. Like if we're seen as little children who can't comprehend anything, then we're never going to be able to truly understand anything. And I don't know about you, but a God who looks at me like I'm incapable of understanding even a percentage of what reality is, or what it means to be alive, or what it means to be divine, or what it means to have that spark of creation, I'm like, yeah, I would look at you like you're, like a prison guard at that point.
Right. Yeah, dude. Like we're just trapped here and we're just at the mercy of that. Yeah, I don't vibe with that, dude.
Exactly. So this is not going to be a super long episode. We kind of just wanted to graze over some of the more fun kind of talking points, and kind of just compare and contrast just a couple of things. So it wasn't going to be like a super deep one. I wanted it to be a little bbit more concise and a little bit more like to the point. That way we can have this and then we can build on top from here.
Right, yeah, because from here, because we compared between two different things, but from here we can take it and apply it in this physical world, and really see where we can use it to help us through our time of living. There was a thought that I had, and I'm sure I'm not the first one to think of this, but I feel like, religion or a belief system, they're tools, to help the living, because once you're beyond this, that kind of is unnecessary. You're already in that gnosis at that point, and so really, whatever faith, whatever belief, whatever religion, whatever spirituality, whatever it is for you, I feel like it's just a way for your soul, your consciousness, your spark to just navigate living. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that we just try and, figure out. Like I don't accept that we're never going to be able to understand anything. Like my thing is that we don't know what the fuck we're doing here. You may as well try and figure out why you're here, what you're doing here, how'd you get put here, all the things that you're capable of. I'm not even talking about the human. I'm talking about the divine spark in you, the soul, whatever you want to call it, your consciousness. We're trying to understand what consciousness is capable of, because consciousness is the thing that existed before, and it'll be the thing that exists afterward. This meat suit is a temporary thing, and there is a certain gnosis about that. Like that there is something deeper within your conscious mind. There's something even more deeper in your subconscious mind, and just in general, your consciousness altogether is something that is greater than the temple in which it is housed. Okay. So that's why we're trying to understand all this, not from a human perspective. I don't give a shit about the human perspective. Like, to be honest, like I always say this, but like, whenever I give like past life regressions, I love whenever somebody is able to experience being the opposite sex or a different race or having a different religion, like very contrasting things like that. Because what happens is that it completely shakes off whatever kind of misconceptions that were bestowed upon you as a youth, right?
Youths.
And so it shakes all that off. So whatever, maybe if you're a guy and you're like, oh, women should be below me. Well, I hope you have a past life regression as a woman. If you're somebody who's like racist and you're white or you're black or whatever color you are, like I hope you have a past life of being a different race. If you're somebody that's religious and your word is the truth, there is nothing that can shake you from that. I want you to have a past life where you're another religious, or you worship another religion rather, right? Yep. Because now you're able to see the other side, and now you're not so ignorant anymore. Now you know what it's like on the other side of the fence. And that's the same thing like with all of this information, is that we're trying to encompass all of it. We don't want you to have a narrowed view. We want you to have a wide lens view of a panoramic type of view, if you will. And I think that that's why this information is so important too, because if you only have part of the story, and look, I know people are going to argue with us 6 ways to Sunday about, the Gnostics, they were heretical, they were false, or it's just people who were against the Bible or whatever, right?
Or it was Satan that just knew better and wrote that shit first, just to cause confusion,
Exactly. And so if you see...
What was that?
Something fell. That was really weird.
Oh, no.
Wow, that's interesting.
Maybe I shouldn't say that word anymore,
But if you're somebody who is like you're looking at the Nagamati in a way that like, oh, of course the Nagamati, the Gnostics said that the serpent was the good guy, because that's exactly what Satan would do, right?
Right. Of course. Yep.
And look, we're not saying, one's right or one's wrong. We don't have really an opinion. I mean, yeah, I vibe more with the Gnostic understanding, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I believe in the Demiurge or I believe that there was a fucking talking snake or anything. All of these are mythologies, okay? And if you look at them for that, instead of like this actually happened,
right.
It probably didn't. Let's just be real. Like, let's just put it into the realm of logic. A talking snake has never and will never happen. This is a mythological story meant to give a deeper meaning.
Right.
And
deeper meaning. That's right. And it might not be the way, but it's a way. And all, just like every religion, every belief system, it's a way, to at least try to be closer to that divine, and so, yeah, man, I really appreciated the information today, because anytime it gets biblical, I'm not very well read in it. Obviously, I didn't grow up that way, and so just having the perspective and just seeing, what's going on, man, I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, dude. And you know what's really cool is, so I actually just a couple of days ago, I ordered the Nagamati scriptures off of Amazon. And dude, it's a thick ass book, 800
It's like a
pages.
phone book, dude.
Like, look at this damn
Yeah.
thing. Like, you can kill somebody
Shit.
with this thing. But it's interesting. I was just flipping through the pages, and it's a thick one, so it's going to take me a little while to read it. But I thought that it was interesting because it talks about like how humanity was created and the powers that were needed in order to create like flesh and bone and blood and soul and skin and hair and all that other shit. We talked about I feel like we bring up Optimistic Banks in almost every episode because the way that he explains things is a completely different perspective, and I really love that.
Oh, yeah.
But whenever he was talking about, like, you think about how a tiger was created, and that's where this is going in a sense. So it talks about the powers began to create. So it talks about the creation of Adam. I'm just going to read this because it's it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the Demiurge said to the authorities with him, "Come, let's create a human being in the image of God and with the likeness to ourselves, so that human image may give us light." They created through their respective powers according to the features that were given. Each of the authorities contributed a psychical feature corresponding to the figure of the image that they had seen. They created a being like the perfect first human and said, "Let's call it Adam." That its name may give us power of light. The powers began to create. The first one, goodness, created the soul of a bone. So the vibration of goodness created the soul of a bone. The second, forethought. Forethought created a soul of sinew. Divinity created the soul of flesh. Lordship created the soul of marrow. Kingdom created the soul of blood. Jealousy created the soul of skin. How about that one?
Wow. Okay.
That kind of puts in a little bit of context, right?
A little bit. Yeah. For sure.
The seventh one, understanding created the soul of hair. That's interesting. They talk about how your hair is like your divine antenna.
Antenna. Yeah.
So literally understanding made hair. So you got to grow your hair out, dude. Get more understanding.
I know, dude. I'm just afraid I'm going to go through like a meatloaf stage, I'm just going to look like meatloaf for a
you're
minute.
going to. Yeah, that's bound, but
Right.
You get over it. Just wear a hat every day.
Yeah.
So moving on, this is wild. It says the throng of angels stood by and received these 7 psychical substances from the authorities in order to create a network of limbs and trunk with all of the parts properly arranged. The first one, who is Raphael, Raphao, I guess that's Raphael, maybe, I don't know. Raphael began by creating the head. Arbon created the skull. Oh God, these names are crazy. Anyway, this guy or this angel or whatever created the brain. Another one created the right eye. Another one created the left eye. Another one created the right ear, the left ear, the nose, the lips, the teeth, the molars. Like, there's angels that are literally speaking these things into existence.
Wow.
One created the tonsils, the uvula, the neck, the vertebrae, the throat, the shoulders, the elbows, the underarms, the right hand, the left hand, the fingernails, the breasts. Oh, who created those bad boys? Astrops and Baroff. They created the breasts. Thank you.
Astrops. They knew what was going on. They
Thank
knew what
you.
was up.
Who created the areola? That's what I want to find out. I don't think it says that. It just talks about the breast. Then you have the shoulder joints, the belly, the navel, the abdomen, the ribs, the hips, the marrow, the bones, the stomach, heart, lungs, liver, spleen, intestines, kidneys, literally all the way down. Oh, shout out to Elio, who created the testicles. Oh, that's funny. Wow. So legit, all of these angels and all of these names spoke physical parts into existence.
Wow.
Think about that. They
Frequency
are
and vibration, dude.
a frequency, spoke a vibration into physical existence.
A physical energy. You know?
Exactly.
Holy shit.
Yeah, dude. And so it says those who activate the limbs are part by part. So the head, the neck, the shoulders, all the way down. Wow. 7 have been empowered over all of these. So the angels that have been empowered over all of your limbs are Michael, Uriel, Asmenidas, Sapha, Sadoel, Armorium, Richram, and Amiorps. But think about these names, though, which is very interesting about these names, right? So let's just say that these aren't actually angels. Let's just say that this whole story is true for a second.
Okay. All right.
And let's just say that each one of these angels and each one of these, let's just call them Elohim. So each one of these Elohim are creating each one of these parts, and they're saying their names in order to create said thing.
Oh, okay. I'm with you.
So that would mean, in essence, that each one of these names, you know, would be like, yo, here's the essence. You speak it out loud. They're basically manifesting this shit from spells, if you think about it that way.
Well, this is what I was thinking, is if you wanted to do healing work, you know, and you wanted to chant that specific angel's name, you know, over and over for that specific body part. That's kind of where I was going with it.
Well, and what's cool too is, you know, you look a little bit more into the angels. All they are, like, this is really the real shit about it. Angels are, we look at them nowadays as if they're like humans with wings. Or like some people talk about the wheel with eyes and all that kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
But really all they are, if you really start looking deep into the angels, maybe we'll do a whole show on this. All the angels are angles of light.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So an angle of light spoke something into existence and created the eyeball, the tit, the testicles, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would have to say that all these names, you could use them in invocation, evocation. You could use them maybe in your spells or in your meditation or something like that. Because, and don't look at them as if they're individuals per se. Look at them as if they're just divine energies, right? Just divine light, literally angles of light, right? And so even I've heard Crow 777, he mentions about the this thing called angles of, damn it, what was it? Like angles of despair or something like that. I can't remember the word now, but anyway, he talks about these certain angles, about how nothing can be created from certain angles, and one of those angles is a 90-degree angle. Because you think about it, if you have a 90-degree angle, well, that's not going to be able to penetrate anything because the light is going to shine down, and then there's nothing that can be created from it, right?
Okay.
And so maybe all of these angles, or these angles of light, these angels, let's just call them, are just divine light that is creating and manifesting for you. And that's why, like, you'll hear like a lot of people, they'll try and channel Archangel Michael or something like that. And it sounds like, oh my God, Archangel Michael, he's up in heaven and he's really reaching down and talking to you. Whenever really what's probably going on is, at least as far as what we know, you're just channeling a literal frequency of light, bro.
Right. That makes more sense to me already.
It makes way more sense.
Yeah. I dig it.
So there is one last little thing that I wanted to go over here. This is, the angles of sorrow. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
They're called the angles of sorrows, the 90-degree angle. It came to me. It just took a minute. Thank you, divine angle of light, who sent that. Just kidding. So there's this little thing that I want to read, and this is like a little closing meditation. I'm just going to say it's going to be like 30 seconds. But if you want to just close your eyes and meditate on the words that I say, let's see what happens. All right. Close your eyes. Visualize the garden. You see the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. You are told not to touch it, but something within you whispers, you already know. You reach, you taste, and in that moment your eyes open, not to sin, but to sovereignty, not to shame, but to self-realization. You were never meant to obey. You were meant to awaken. That's it.
I like that, dude. I like that. And I was thinking right now, as far as, not reaching into the tree of knowledge, right? Let's say something's really bothering you, and we like to say, you got to deal with your shadow self. You got to reach down into the shadows of the unknown, or at least unknown to your logical mind. And if you decide that you don't want to look into that shadow, then you're never going to fully understand what's really fucking with you. You know what I'm saying? And so you're kind of trapped, and so
what's holding you back?
That makes sense, from, reaching and grabbing the tree of knowledge or the fruit of knowledge, to really understand what's going on with you,
Well, and this is the esoteric way of looking at it. This is the deeper, more knowledgeable understanding of what could have really been going on. Now, to say what was really going on, it's a made up story. Right. It's a myth. All right. Yeah. Nobody was around to be able to remember a story about the first people ever created. If somebody tells you that, they are absolutely lying. I don't care what meditation you do. I don't care if you are encompassed with all of the cities within Buddhism and you're able to access divine enlightenment. Probably not going to remember the first man and the first woman. Because I don't think that that's even necessarily, I don't even think you need that.
Relevant.
It's not relevant. And so, but I think that a lot of these stories, they have to have them so that you can look at it as if there's a beginning, middle, and an end.
Right.
Because God would have all that information. You know, he was there, right? Allegedly. And so, I think what we're trying to say here is look for the deeper meaning. You read, don't just read one text and get it from one perspective. You got to read it from all the perspectives in order to really try and grasp it. Now, you were told in the beginning that Eve disobeyed. Okay? Eve disobeyed, and now she is cursed. She's a sinner. She got kicked. Her and old boy Adam got kicked out of paradise, the Garden of Eden, because they chose to go against God's word. So, and then God was just like, all right, well, now you're fucked, like, and you're going to imagine if, for example, let's say your kid does something that you told him not to do. If you told your kid, all right, let's just use the example that I said earlier, and your kid touches the stove, right? You would forgive him pretty quickly. Because first off, your kid's hand's probably burnt, got second-degree burns or something like that on it. You're going to be the first one to go get some Neosporin or something like that, put a little bandage on it, ice, something, right? You're not going to say, well, now you really did it. You thought you messed up with that. You're out of my house. You're never coming back, and now you're going to taste what life is like without me.
Right. Your Nintendo Switch, that's mine now,
That's Demiurge energy.
Demiurge energy.
Don't be Demiurge energy. Okay. So just wanted to show to compare and contrast a little bit, just to throw it out there. Like I said, we didn't really go super deep. It was kind of just a couple of examples to try and give a little lay of the land, if you will. I'm sure we're going to be diving into it.
We didn't even get into the people that were already on the outside of the garden, Yeah. We didn't even get into that. That's like a whole nother thing, I think.
They don't like that conversation.
I know. I'm just saying it could have went deeper,
it definitely could have went a lot deeper.
We just didn't do it.
Not yet. We'll get there. But I think that especially with information like this, it's got to be smaller pieces. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, this is big stuff, dude. It really is.
Right. Especially if you're speaking like old English. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to decipher what thou and thee and all these fucking old English kind of stuff. So little small to chew kind of
that's what I need.
Parts there.
Anyways, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, dude. But anyway, look, we're going to be getting to the meditation here in a minute. And if you want to be able to join us in that meditation, come check us out at patreon.com/metamysteries. It's the best way to be able to support the show. And like I said earlier, you'll be able to join us every Wednesday night for Wonder Wiz Day. You can bring whatever you want. You want to just sit and hang around. Maybe you got a couple of questions. Maybe you want to join in on whatever the topic may be. Please, go and check it out. And we would love to see you there. We love all of our all of our guests that come and hang out with us on those nights. It's always a really fun night. And it's more of a community kind of thing. So if you want to be part of that community, you want to be able to add or just, kind of witness it, then that would be the best place to go check it out. Otherwise, if you don't want to do that, you can definitely leave us a review at Meta Mysteries. If you're listening to this on Meta Mysteries, leave a little review. If you're on Apple Podcasts, if you're on Spotify, then you can leave a comment under each video. Maybe you can share this with your friends, your family members, the ones who are into the woo-woo, the ones with an open mind, the one with that third eye all the way open. Go and send it to your crazy aunt who's always talking about how you are literally God. And you always thought that she was crazy until you listen to this show. And then you listen to the show and you're like, damn, Aunt Jen was really on some shit, or whatever. Aunt whoever.
On some shit, dude.
I'm just like getting specific over here, but you know what I mean? So yeah, we appreciate all the one who have helped us in every way to be able to share this show. Also, if you would, go give us a follow on TikTok and Instagram, both of them at Meta Mysteries. I think actually TikTok is at Meta Mysteries 111. But either way, go give us a little listen, go give us a follow, maybe leave a review, do whatever you can. We appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know. We love talking about this, and it means the world that you guys love us talking about it, because it's like we're doing something right,
Yeah, dude. I love this stuff, man, just because it fulfills my own curiosities, and yours as well. And this whole thing, man, that we're doing, just existence in general, dude. It's such a big thing, man. And I'm just glad that we're exploring all of it, or at least as much as we can.
As much as we can. Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get to that meditation here in just a minute, but we got to get that tarot card, baby.
Oh, yeah, dude. We got the 10 of Cups, which
Cups again,
I think is usually a good card, man.
Okay. We
It's
like
a good
the cups. Nothing wrong with cups. Emotion, typically. All right. Oh, yeah, it is a good one. How about that? The 10 of Cups, the culmination of emotional fulfillment, is the gateway to the next adventure. A celebratory card filled with the energy of completion. The 10 of Cups indicates that you've reached an apex of emotional fulfillment. On it, a happy couple stands in an embrace with their free arms outstretched as they welcome 10 shining cups that have appeared in the rainbow above them. Their 2 children dance beside them, and a river runs through the lush landscape they inhabit, leading to a house on top of a hill. This couple has it all, including love, a happy family, and a safe home. They are grateful for their prosperous life. Bro, is this not the Garden of Eden?
That's what I was saying. That's what I was thinking.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Legit, it's the upright key meanings are happiness and fulfillment. They have everything that they need. They're looking out. They have all their cups, above them and everything. Wow, this is so Garden of Eden vibes.
And I was even asking ChatGPT, like, where would the Garden of Eden have been? Like if it was like an actual physical place, and a lot of the examples or theories of where that could be, most of them were near a river. And so the river running through this little area too. Interesting.
Dude, not only just that, it's a husband and a wife embracing each other. Could be Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve had 2 kids, Cain and Abel. Those 2 kids are in this picture.
Oh, shit.
How about those apples? Literally apples.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so let's get to the spiritual meaning behind it. It says, long-standing family issues are nearly resolved, or you may be headed for a family gathering that will bring everyone closer together. Enjoy the sensation of feeling secure with your overall well-being, and make time to celebrate your success with people who feel like family. You're well on your way to achieving a big milestone in your career or love life, propelling you toward your next phase with increased stability.
Love it.
Wow. That's just another... Dude, I'm telling you, anybody that is listening, why we're not more shocked that card appeared on this episode is because every single episode seems to correlate with every single tarot card that we draw on this episode. That's why we do the tarot reading at the end of the show, because we almost want to imbue the tarot deck with the information first, as you would generally, if you have a tarot deck, you would sit there, maybe you'd charge it with your crystal, maybe you'd cleanse it with your smoke or incense or your breath even, and then you would sit and hold it into your hands. This is the way I was taught anyway, is that you would hold it in your hands and you would almost pray over it or meditate over it just for a little bit and try and empower it with whatever is weighing on your heart. So if you're asking for some kind of revelation, right, and the tarot there would just be a card that jumps out as you're shuffling them. So typically I'll shuffle the cards like regularly, and then I'll shuffle them like this, right, like just taking them and just throwing them on top of each other. Some people do them different. Some people will shuffle them and then they'll spread it out, and then they'll just pick one from the spread. There's a million different ways to be able to do this, but the idea is that you've already done this before. You're just remembering why you did it in the first place. So if you've already done it before, of course that card's going to make it known to you, and you're going to know what card has already, come out, because it's already happened. And so that's why, and then there's that, and some people, like to say, well, they actually, maybe they're divinely inspired, depending on who you call on. I typically, whenever I'm shuffling, I usually call on the Elohim, just because that's homies to me. But if the Pleiadians are your people, or God or Jesus, or name your alien or whatever, right? Maybe you're relying on your ancestors or whatever. Doesn't matter. Whoever you call on will give the exact right card that you need, because they know your heart and they exist outside of time. It's this earthly human realm that only exists in time. Almost all the other fucking realms don't have time in them. So if you exist in the realm of time, while the insight is coming from outside of the realm of time, then of course it's always going to seem like divine timing, because time ain't no thing to those kind of beings, or that kind of energy, or whatever it is, right? That's and not even just that, your consciousness, the awareness that is you, the I am that is you, also exists outside of time. So just remember that too. So if you're not somebody that wants to rely on anybody else, maybe you don't believe in external forces or anything like that, look at it in that way. It's your own divine spark, your own consciousness that existed before and exists after and will be eternal and everything else like that. Call it your higher self, whatever, right? So it's probably a little bit of all of them, to be honest with you.
I think so too. Absolutely.
So just want to throw that out there. But yeah, all of these readings, they just seem so crazy every time. Like, and that's why, like, if that was our first time, we'd have been like, oh my God, it's the little girl of even, holy fuck.
We've had some of those though in the beginning, remember?
Oh yeah, the Anastasia method.
Oh God. Yeah, dude. That was the best.
Dude.
We lost it.
Yeah, the Anastasia method, anybody wants to be able to go back and listen to that one. Actually, I believe that audio was really ass, because we were still figuring out like your studio situation. But that was a crazy one. And for anybody that doesn't know, basically it was the Anastasia method is essentially you take some kind of seed, like an apple seed or whatever, maybe avocado seed, it doesn't matter what kind of seed, and you hold it in your mouth and you let your spit and all your DNA kind of get entrenched into it. And then you would spit it out into your hand, and you would hold it out into your hand underneath the stars at night, and somehow the divine intelligence from the heavens, or the starlight or whatever, would shine down on it, and then you would plant that seed that is imbued with the heavenly light along with your DNA. You would plant that seed, it would turn into a tree, and if you ate from that tree, wow, I didn't believe that we would bring this up.
Full circle.
But literally, if you ate from that tree, it would heal whatever is ailing you. So if you have this wrong with you, maybe you have a bad liver or a bad whatever, literally it would replenish everything that you lack. And so so that's pretty interesting to even bring that up on this episode.
Yeah, divine timing, dude.
Weird. Yeah. But anyway, on that episode, that was really the first like crazy tarot reading episode that we had. The one that really we were like, holy shit.
Right.
Because
even before that, they were connecting, but this was just like in our face,
Yeah, and traditionally we were using, I think in the beginning we were using the traditional Rider-Waite tarot deck, and on this occasion, Sean didn't have a Rider-Waite tarot deck, so we had a Five Below deck that we got, like a tarot deck we got from Five Below. And still a pretty cool deck, it's just a Five Below deck, whatever. Yep. And so whenever you get them from other places, there's always going to be different pictures on them describing the same thing, but in another way. And the card that we drew was a hand that was, palms facing the sky underneath the stars. And it also had like a tree branch or something.
Well,
in
I think
there.
the image of the hand inside of that was the stars. Like it looked like space was inside of the hand, and then the hand was holding the plant.
That's right. Yeah. And it was super, super symbolic. And we were like, holy shit, we're actually doing it right. That's crazy.
Yeah. There was definitely no other card that would have even been remotely close, as far as the imagery was concerned.
And you think about tarot, you have a 1 in 78 chance of that happening. There's 78 tarot cards. 1 in 70. What is that, like 1.17% of a chance of you getting the exact card that you need?
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy. I wonder if that's if that's even the right math. But anyway, yeah, dude, really, really crazy. So awesome that we were able to get the 10 of Cups card. Anyway, we're going to stop yapping our gums here. We're going to get to the meditation. But Sean, anything else that you wanted to throw out there, sir?
Oh man, for the most part, man, I just want people to understand that, and like it says in the Bible, don't fear. No reason to be fearful. I guess the only thing you could be fearful is of yourself. If you choose to continue on the wrong track, or if you're knowingly doing people wrong or things of that nature. But we're not here to fear anything.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, good little parting message. All right, we're going to get to the meditation right now, but before we go, we got to say, if the serpent came here and he taught you anything, it's that you don't know what you don't know. So don't just get weird.
Stay weird.
Open doors inside your mind. Leave the ordinary far behind. Colors swirl and stars align. In the meta mysteries you'll find.
Ooh, that was a different one. What did you think about that one, Sean?
Dude, I was sweating, man. I felt like I was in the sauna.
That's that chi coming through, baby.
That's that good. And I felt like I saw the chi, man. I felt like there was like I don't know, like that light again, but it was like pulsating, but almost like with more intention. Almost for a moment, it was going with whatever that voice was, and it was like it had its own intelligence. I don't know. It's very hard to explain, but pretty cool, dude. Like it was like bright. It's bright light.
Wow. So for all the listeners that are just listening on the podcast, that was like a Gnostic chant, essentially. And very I don't want to say ominous. It almost just sounded like it was like the picture that I was forming in my head, like, because I always, like, especially for chant things like that, I always try and put myself like in the inner circle of the chant, like just in my mind. And it's like they were in a cave or something, and just surrounded in a circle, and you have people chanting, and maybe those chants are, I don't know, symbolic of certain names, and those names hold a vibration, and if you keep on chanting those names, especially if you're in a circle, which would ultimately heighten whatever is going on. And yeah, I would think that would be pretty initiatory for sure.
Oh yeah, very much so.
That's what I was thinking. It was more like I don't know, almost like a Tibetan chant, or like a some kind of monk chant or native chant or something like that, And if we're looking at all the chants as if they're just like frequency and vibration around a few people, especially if they're initiates, then that means that they probably had to go through a bunch of crazy obstacles to become initiates. A lot like secret societies and stuff like that, which I'm sure that they were probably a little extreme in trying to become initiates,
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely a process to that for sure.
Yeah. So, I was just trying to put myself in that mindset, see if I was there. And, that's kind of, I was just like, in my mind, I was just sitting in the circle while the leader was chanting, kind of thing. And I'll say this, typically they say that whenever you meditate, like, a powerful thing that you can do is like legit point your eyes toward your third eye, right?
Yeah.
And whenever you do that, you almost start to feel like a little pulsating like sensation, almost like something, your attention to your third eye or your pineal gland is bringing awareness or more awareness to your third eye and shaking it and waking it up
activating it.
And dude, it's weird. You feel that, especially during meditation. You know, you close your eyes, you look up at it, and it's like there is something going on there. Like, I'm not even saying like I'm just thinking, like I feel it, legit feel some kind of like slight pulsating.
Okay, like a vibration or like a sensation, like you're feeling it, or you're, because I felt like, for me, I felt like I could see it, you know, like in this meditation, I didn't, just let my imagination roam. And I think the next time we do a meditation, I'm going to try to do that more, you know, but like maybe we'll do a more of a guided meditation and just like have the visuals and use the imagination. But lately I've just been letting I'm trying to do exactly that, like allow my third eye to just see what it needs to see rather than trying to put an image into it, let the image come to me kind of thing.
Okay.
And I was actually doing that. I was actually kind of looking up, and like you said, there is something to that. It's like you're acknowledging the aspect of yourself that realizes that you are yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I know that sounds weird, but and that's when I saw like that pulsating light, dude. It was like, whoa, like it had its own life to it. I don't know. But,
yeah, like it's own little emanating kind of source.
Yeah, because it wasn't the light in my room or anything. My light is pretty consistent. I can understand if it was kind of flickering throughout the entire time. That would make more sense because these are like LED type lights. But the way that this light was pulsating was not that. You know, it's definitely something else going on. So
yeah, I mean the LED lights are like they're pulsating like 100 times a second or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty cool, dude. Pretty cool, these different style meditations. And I don't know. I typically like to, first off, I try and get myself out of the way. And which is what meditation is all about, just to get yourself, your egoic self, whatever, out of the way and allow, your imagination or your right brain to be able to shine through and possibly use that as a connecting source to whatever you're trying to connect to. And so that's what I was initially trying to do. Just shut it off, go to the nothing place and take no thought, nothing at all, and just see what happens. And typically that's what I'll try and do. I'll try and be nothing, think nothing, do nothing, all of that. And it's almost like after a few minutes, whenever I feel like I'm in that meditation kind of mindset, that's when like, I guess I just let my not my mind, but my imagination take hold of whatever, almost like letting my imagination be the rainbow bridge to that information from a higher realm, in a sense, right? Like, let your imagination paint a picture for you in your mind. But you have to shut the mind off first. Otherwise, it's just going to be thinking about what you thought about earlier the day or what you got to do coming up. Like, you want to get out of that. Get out of the rat race of the mind of, I got to do this or I did that or whatever. Like, get that out of the way. And then once you get to the meditated mind, now say, all right, you can say this in your mind or whatever. But that's typically what I do. I like to just say, all right, use my imagination as a tool to communicate with me. And that way, if as soon as you get a thought, it's like it feels like it's being sent to you, or it feels like a download, or it feels, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know if that's the way, but that's my way. And
I like it.
It works pretty good. But anyway,
that was a great meditation, though. Definitely. For a minute there, it felt kind of mystical for me. You know, I felt like, there's something happening. You know?
Yeah.
I'm just glad to be a part of it, man.
Hell yeah, dude. All right, well, I guess we'll get on out of here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that conversation that we had along with the meditation. That was a fun one, dude. It was very insightful, a little knowledgeable, not too extreme. Well, not too extreme on the amount of information, maybe a little
Right.
extreme in regards to your
What the
thoughts about it.
information was right.
But yeah, I guess we'll get up out of here, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Bye, guys.
Voices drift on winds untamed, words like spells that can't be named. Close your eyes and feel the sound. Journey where no